Welcome. This is It's About Time podcast with Corey Alexander. And tonight we have a very special guest, my buddy, Christopher Morris. Chris.
Corey, what an honor to be here, man.
It's an honor to have you, my friend. It's an honor to have you. So we have a great show lined up with many great questions. Christopher Morris, who you'd say Chris is, I guess, an entertainer extraordinaire.
Wow. Wow.
Because I don't know how to categorize you. You are an actor, burlesque, stand-up, improv. I mean, you've pretty much done everything. You've done everybody. You know, all the rumors are out there. So
I've not done everybody. There's a few that I have.
Maybe half to Philadelphia, but there they go. At least you've mentally, you've been there with a lot of people.
I'm an old soul, I think. Vaudevillian trapped in a 43-year-old body, I think. That kind of thing.
All right, I'm no comment on that one. Anyway.
43-year-old body.
It's still handsome as ever. But it's great to have Chris here. So, as you know, in this podcast, we talk about comedy, we talk about sports, we do a little bit of both. And Chris has a background in both. He is the son of Speedy Morris, one of the legendary coaches here in Philadelphia, and also has an illustrious career in comedy. So it is just a pleasure to get perspective on a little bit of both. So I think for the audience tonight, we're gonna get a dive in a little bit about Chris's background in both areas. So let's talk about first about how your entry into, what did you as a kid, like what started you getting into comedy? What did you like about comedy that you went sort of that route?
I was a joke thief. That's how I started. No, I was.
We start out with a felony. All right. That's
no,
always good.
I always
got 'em, boys. Move in.
I always loved. It was weird. I would go to Wildwood with my parents. My dad would take us down every year. And I would always, like a kid, want to go to the boardwalk every single night and go to the rides. And this one night he said, we're going to go see my buddy. I didn't know who his buddy was. And I was about 8 years old. And I said, all right, I'll go. But I was pissed. I wanted to go to the boardwalk. He goes, we'll go tomorrow. We'll get more. You had enough boardwalk fries, whatever the hell you were eating. So I go, okay, we'll go. So I go, and it's like a club, a dingy club. And he sits me down. And I remember the guy comes out of the kitchen, like a red sport coat on, white slick back hair, and it was a guy by the name of Cozy Morley, who was a Wildwood legend, right? So he went up on stage, and I, for 3 hours, put on like a full-on vaudeville show. He had a singer, he had a magician, he had some duos and comedy duos, and I sat there mesmerized for 4 hours, and every year I wanted to go back and see him.
Get out.
And he was like, for example, you said about not knowing how to categorize me. I don't even know how to categorize myself because, like,
I wasn't lying.
Yeah. See, I didn't come up watching like a Seinfeld or a Chris Rock I came up watching joke tellers like Cozy. So it wasn't like write your own stuff. I remember one time I asked him about writing and he laughed. He was like, those jokes are older than I am. What are you talking about writing? So it was and back in the day, that's what they did. They would do all old jokes they took from the same pool of jokes and just made them their own kind of thing.
Right.
So that's kind of what I was watching coming up. And then I used to watch Saturday Night Live and imitate Dana Carvey and Chris Farley and all from my friends and talk about comedy and sports. My dad's the one who said, let's do a show. Because my dad also, when he would speak, would do jokes, like old jokes.
Ah, okay.
So he was the straight man. I was the crazy comedian guy. And I would just...
You literally did shows with your dad?
We had Chris and Dad Show, it was called.
Get out.
And we would do them twice a year, 2 or 3 times a year for charity. We wound up raising over $90,000 for different organizations. But I didn't know how to write, so I was just doing SNL skits. I was doing like Dana Carvey's act, and one time, this is actually a funny story, one time, so I got into knowing Joe Conklin, the great Joe Conklin from Philly, and impersonator. And I would do his Harry Callis on stage. Do the actual thing from his cassette tape. And one time he was in the audience. I didn't know it. Oh, no. And so to this day, he still busts my balls about that. But
he caught you.
He caught me. He's like, you did my act. I was like, it's not allowed. I thought
everyone some people's stuff.
I thought everyone was doing that. But that's how I got started. And from there, just kind of moved on. But my dad was the one who... we kind of started doing shows together, and that's how I got on stage all the time and did stuff with him.
No, wow, that's amazing. My dad, the only thing he wanted to do together was, go to dinner and then have me pay. That was about it. So it was nice that your dad. And
he still pays for me. He still pays for me at dinner. Thank God.
Your dad's good people, but that's great. That's That's amazing because, I kind of went the other route. I mean, I was watching like Bugs Bunny and then the Stooges and Abbott Costello, and that kind of got me into it. But just
Who was your
watching
major inspiration? If I could turn the tables for a minute, as stand-up wise.
Well, speaking of interesting stories, here's the craziest story, and I think this is a little revealing about myself because I kind of came like full circle about myself. Like, I got to be better at being an open-minded person. So I was watching Dave Chappelle do inside the actor studio, right? And when he said, Dave, because there are a million questions, but he get to the point where I was really excited. He says, what was your real inspiration in getting into comedy? Now, hear me thinking, I'm like, okay, he's going to be Red Fox or Richard Pryor, go the easy route, and I figured that's what he's going to say. And he went Bugs Bunny.
Wow.
And I was completely taken aback, like, wow, really, Bugs Bunny? And I'm like, well, that was me too. I mean, I was exactly the Dave Chappelle. Like, that's what I wanted to.
Early, yeah.
So that, amazing. So that was his first thing, and that's what got me in. I mean, watching things like Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, because Daffy Duck was more my style. That he was kind of like a ball buster, kind of insults you, and he talks too fast. That was totally me. I'm like, Daffy was more my thing than even Bugs, but Bugs was certainly the headliner.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Daffy was always the thing. So that's what kind of got me into it. And then as I saw different stuff, I really got into stand-up because they had stand-up on TV all the time, especially in the 80s. So that kind of got me into it too. So that was like where you saw like Jerry Seinfeld and you saw Stephen Wright, Richard Jeni, Carol Leifer, Joan Rivers. Then you had the Carson Show and Letterman with his late night. That would actually got me into a lot of comedy too because late night had a lot of
back
up-and-coming
then,
guys.
it was the best.
They had all New York guys who were up and coming, and that's where you saw them was on late night because they obviously infiltrated the city to find out who was going to be the next great comic.
Yes.
So that's kind of where it all started. So it's interesting that you had your dad, as kind of a...
My dad was the first guy. I mean, like I said, Cozy was the guy I went and saw every year, and kind of like that style because I also do some singing. So he also did singing on stage and it was like a complete entertainment kind of show. So I really enjoyed that. And then years later, I went and saw Rickles, who was one of my idols, and he had that. Frank Stallone opened for him. The great Frank Stallone. And he had an orchestra behind him, and he sang, and Rickles came on after him and did comedy, and I just like that I like that era. I should be 85 years old.
Well, amazingly enough, when you said you went to Wildwood, I thought that was the comedy alone. And sometimes when you go to Wildwood, it pretty much feeds you the comedy that it's just off the cuff.
It still does.
So then what was your next foray? Like, what was the actual, your first real gig into stand-up or TV, movies, whatever? What was your next real big step into the world of entertainment?
I was doing really good with the Chris and Dad show because I knew it. I knew what I was doing. It was around my neighborhood, so people would come. But I remember I went and saw a show, and I knew some of the comics on the show. And they were like, do you want to get up and do 5 minutes? And I was like, no. And they kind of laughed, and I'm like, what am I doing? I should probably get up and do 5 minutes.
Sure, why not?
It was the longest 5 minutes of my entire life. It was like you heard like forks hitting the plate and people drink. You heard people sipping. That's how bad it was.
It's a good set when you hear people swallowing their water.
It was absolutely horrendous.
Clearly,
and right there, I'm like, I should quit right away. But after that, I just started doing stuff with the Lads of Comedy. Joe Conklin was nice enough to meet with me, and then I started not stealing his stuff and doing my own stuff.
I hope you didn't open with his jokes. He's like,
with
my
own
I'm down to
stuff.
like 15 minutes after Chris went.
And I used to, it's funny looking back now because I used to, I was scared all the time. I was always scared to get on stage, even when I had my own stuff and I should be developing it. Because I felt, even in comedy clubs, Corey, and you probably go to a lot of comedy clubs, I never felt like I belonged. I always felt like everyone was so much better. So because I was so old school.
Right.
So I would do, a lot of the bookers would book me, sometimes I would do the cabaret. But I also, with Conklin, the Lads of Comedy would book me. And I would do mainly those kind of shows, like hall gigs and theater gigs. And I was just lucky enough to get in with some really cool people that would book me. But still had Mike Doherty. Mike, right?
Sure, yeah.
Mike's tremendous. And I'd work for him all the time. And he gave me some really, really great gigs. And then some really hell gigs, too. But so just doing that year after year after year, it was good, but I still felt like I didn't belong on stage. Like I always feel everyone's better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what
I feel like that every day.
what my forte is I
I feel like I want to go into Wawa. Like that guy's going to order a better hoagie than me, man. I'm already pissed off.
And I'm the guy ordering the hoagie.
I'm going to wait till 4 more people come in. I'm going to wait till a kid who's 8 years old come up in there and punch something in like a donut, and I'll feel better about myself.
But yeah, it was, and I just kept going from there and found some acting, which was really, really fun and really, really cool. I got to.
What was your first real, like, would you say, acting gig, either TV or movies?
Acting, I got really lucky there, too. I met a guy by the name of Andrew Schaefer, who is, back to my dad, went to Penn Charter. My dad did a stint at Penn Charter. He coached there for a couple years. And Schaefer was his brothers were wrestlers. I think he was a wrestler, too, but he was also an actor. He wound up moving to New York, went to NYU, and was very close with Adam Sandler and all those guys, Molly Shannon. And he wrote a film called Kids in America that came out in 2004. And he wrote the one part based on me, the one character named Chuck McGinn. And he
You look like a Chuck.
he called me. Well, this guy was really brilliant. So I was like, oh. He was like quoting Shakespeare. I'm like, who's Shakespeare? So he called me on the phone. He goes, dude, I got this part for you. And he literally gave me the part. And I was in the film with like Julie Bowen, Malik Yoba was on New York Undercover. Julie Bowen's Modern Family.
Yeah.
Malik Yoba, New York Undercover. Elizabeth Perkins was in it.
Liz Perkins, yeah.
Nicole Richie was in it. George Wendt. It was so many heavy hitters, and I'm like, what? Where do I look? I didn't know what I was doing. But it also was like on-the-job training, too. I remember watching these guys, and like it kind of taught me. Like when I wasn't filming, I was standing off just watching how they acted, how they portrayed their characters. And it gave me a lot of insight into what to work on like a real set. I mean, I did extra work before that one time, but I didn't consider that like...
Yeah, just background.
Yeah, I was, but I made it. I was in National Treasure.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So the scene where Nicolas Cage is coming out of Independence Hall, I played tourist 185, and I was walking around like this was my tourist thing, and I had a windbreaker on.
Guy spotting a pigeon pooping.
That was it. That was my big acting thing in that. But that I didn't really count that. But yeah, so Kids in America was my first big.
That's great.
Big acting thing.
So it was sort of trial by fire because you didn't know what the hell you were doing.
Yeah, it was.
And that's got to be intimidating.
But it was very. But I loved it every single minute of it, and then just meeting all those guys and working with all those guys, and I mean the film didn't do. It was the best part is they literally got like the returns back, and
they broke even.
The producer. This is a true story
that in Hollywood.
The producer asked where Plymouth Meeting, Pennsylvania was.
Oh, geez.
And they go, why? He goes, that's where it did the best. And my buddy was like, that's because Chris's family went every night to see the film. They had a bus trip. And we did. We had a bus trip. My parents were in there every night watching the movie. 2 weeks. I think it was 2 weeks.
Where's Roxborough? Yeah, they pretty much bought the theater and just rolled it just every day.
Every day they were in there. Yeah,
they just fake tickets out. They just start ripping tickets just to make it sound good. Oh, good for you. Well, that's great. And then, awesome. So you started all that good stuff, and then talked about your great foray into the burlesque world.
Burlesque
Mostly
was
because I'm horny.
Burlesque. I'll get topless right now. Burlesque was.
I can see no bra. Thank you.
Burlesque was honestly a godsend because it was. I never, like I said, that style of entertainment. I'm like, it's gone now. Like when I first start getting back into stand-up, I'm like, oh crap, this is how stand-up's done. Really, look at it now. So when burlesque was around, I had heard about it, the show, and I heard about it in Atlantic City. And then I got a call from a good friend of ours, Vince Valentine, little shout out to my boy Vinny. And he had been talking to the late, great Jeff Parami, who was the host of the show for 8 years. And Jeff is somebody I look up to so much. Right. And Vince said, looking for a guy who tells old jokes for this show in Biloxi. Here they were opening the show in Biloxi, Mississippi, and they wanted a host. And Vince recommended me to Jeff. Jeff called me on the phone. And did Jeff, how he does.
That's right, yeah.
I didn't know who it was. He was like, hey, you fat prick. So it was Jeff. But so then he recommended me to Alan Valentine, who's the producer, who's the best guy I've ever worked for in my life. And I got the show, and I went down.
Shout out to Kissing Up.
Yeah, he is, man. He is.
Nothing like Kissing Up.
No. But he is. He's just an amazing guy. He cares. He's just great. But they flew me down to Biloxi every week. So I would fly down on a Wednesday, do the show Thursday, fly home Friday.
That's amazing.
And it was a paid vacation. hotel bar. I think they gave my check to the hotel bar every week, because I did, basically. Every Wednesday I was down there.
What are you, mafia down there? It's on the arm. Hey, I don't pay for nothing, man. It's just, you want to give me the bill, we do this
They
thing.
were like,
They give
"We're
it to
not
me, I give it
paying
right
them,
back. It's a little game we play.
Pay him in beer and whatever. He'll be
Do a
fine.
little football there. Just yeah, put it like this, man. I'll just, there's a bill right back at you.
Yeah, so it was a blast. And then, unfortunately, in 2020, Jeff passed. And, we were at the viewing and everything. And I think I told you before we started, I was all but quitting. I was ready to just give up.
Yeah.
And I got a call from Alan saying, well, you got to do the impossible, which is replace Jeff. And I was like, that isn't possible. And he said, would you do it? And I was like, yeah. So I took it on, and we did it last summer. I'm still waiting to hear about this year. I'm hoping we're back. I don't know.
That's great.
It was at the Brigada every Thursday at 9 and packed the place. And it's like a Vegas show in Atlantic City. So
yeah, now with this stuff you're talking about, for the burlesque, it's a lot of just these old jokes, and ladies come out, and you're just doing jokes in between different acts.
Yeah, and skits. We do
skits.
a couple of blackout skits, which are a lot of fun.
Yep, and then I actually did one in L.A. I did a headline a burlesque show.
Oh, really?
So they actually did comedy as well as burlesque. It wasn't just sort of like the one person.
Yeah.
It was just intermingled. It's interesting.
Great.
But so do you actually use like old time jokes? Do you make up your own? How do you work it?
We do the old time. He wanted it to be exactly as the era of vaudeville, what they used to do. And they used to, there's a great documentary that I watched. It's called The Last First Comic, but they used to basically do that. They would all do a lot of the same scenes and a lot of the same, but they would make it their own kind of thing.
Gotcha.
So you basically take a joke and rewrite it, and you kind of make it fit you.
So it is like an old joke that you have, but you just sort of...
Yeah, it's like an old joke, and then you take, oh, well, how would I do this? Maybe I could change this here, this there. And you kind of do it that way. And we get together and see what's going to fit the show, because every year is a different show. If they keep it going, every year is a different show.
Now, so there's the same show each Thursday?
Every Thursday, same show for the season, but then every year they change it.
They change it. Okay, but you're basically doing the same thing each Thursday.
Every Thursday.
Okay.
Yep.
Same jokes, same.
Yep.
You pick out your jokes for the
now,
year.
There are some, like anything with comedy, some don't work. So as you're going on, like I remember last year, we were doing this one. There was actually 2 or 3 of them that I'm like, I don't know if that's hitting very well.
The skit.
Let's replace it. So I said, I'll try this one tonight, and then I'd try that one. Oh, that does better. So then we would do that. So throughout, we're always kind of maybe making it work. And I always tell people, don't come right away. I remember Jeff telling me that, like, let us hone the act a little bit and get it going, and then, by June we should be ready to go. And
now,
depending on when it starts.
Is there any truth to the rumor that you're allowed to try on every different bustier?
I'm not allowed, but I do when they're not out, when they're on stage.
Don't send me pictures.
Chris. All right.
Well, that's great. So I think that gives us a good run there. So you mentioned something earlier, and that's sort of another topic here on the show, hell gigs. So can you pick out either one or two of your, you showed up and it was just like, okay, I'm just not doing this.
There was 2 that really stand out. I was with the Lads of Comedy, and I was really, really raw. It was really new kind of to stand up. And I was a sophomore in college. That's because I started when I was about 17, doing the act with my dad and everything.
Yeah.
But I was really new to stand up. And it was sophomore in college. And the Lads of Comedy it was Takeoff the Kings of Comedy. It had Joey Callahan in it, and who else was in it? There was he switched it up, but Sudsy was in it. He was another great comedian.
Right.
Pat O'Donnell, just a lot of great Irish comics. So we did it around the area, and then we got the opportunity to play Notre Dame University. So I'm, this is great. Wow, I'm on my first road gig, and we go, and we're in Chicago, and we stayed there with a great comic by the name of Dobie Maxwell. Who?
Oh, I love Dobie.
Yeah, Dobie's tremendous.
He's a great guy.
Yeah. So he had a gig at a naval base, the Great Lakes, or the naval base. That was the night before. So we go, and I remember
this was a booked gig for him.
Yeah, he was booked there.
Okay.
And he goes, because he was on our show the next day.
Okay.
So he goes, how about you guys, me and Joey, go and do the Great Lakes with us? Okay, great. So we go and we do. There's a bunch of comics on this show.
Yeah.
This is before 9/11, and we go up and we do everyone kills
Right.
And I remember I was like nervous, so I went to the bar. I'm on my 5th drink, and they're like, "We're not supposed to drink before." I was like, "Oh, that's not
only
part of
5."
So I go up and do really good. So now I'm first road gig. I'm really feeling it. I'm like, this is great. So next day we do Notre Dame. Right now we walk
on
in,
the campus.
On campus, it looked like a study hall room. It was a weird kind of room, and there had to be 30 kids there. Right, So I'm like, okay. No, there's no drinking. Everyone's just there to see the show.
Right.
And
30 kids. Oh,
I had
God.
to go on and do. I opened it with
Okay.
my act, and then I had to do 2 characters. I did an Irish nun and Seamus, the world's most unluckiest leprechaun. Right. Which I was the most unluckiest comic that night. So I go
Already
on.
sounds hellish.
I go on. Nothing. I'm not even. One kid had his head down like it was study hall, and I'm like, hey, wake up, whatever. Nothing. Next comic kills. I think it was Callahan. I go back up as the leprechaun. Nothing. Next comic kills. Everybody killed except me. And then I had to go up to the most 3 times.
Oh, jeez.
And I remember the last thing they did was an improv game. I didn't even go out. I'm like, I'm not even going out. I'm sitting in the back. I'm crying. I'm quitting. I was done, So that was one hell gig. The other hell one was kind of a funny thing, a little bit. But we did it was a Mike Doherty gig. Shout out to Mike again. We did it was like a beef and beer hall kind of thing. And I remember, I love Mike.
Oh, God. Here we
But
go.
Mike got on stage, and there was still a line at the bar. And he goes, our next, our first comedy night, our first comic, Chris Morris. Well, first I said, you have to do credits.
Oh, yeah.
So I put Kids in America in there like anybody saw it. And I said, put Kids in America. And he goes, all right, our first comic was in a movie, Kids in the USA. I'm like, oh, you messed that up. No, here he is, Chris Morris. And there's still a line at the bar. Nobody's listening. So I get up. And I'm trying to work through this, and there's one table here, I never forget, didn't even budge. Like they were having like a picnic. They're sitting there talking to one another and this and that and everything. And I'm in the middle of a punchline, or middle of a joke, and I hear, you want a shot? So I go, what? You want a shot? I said, I'm doing it, working here, but yeah, if you want. So I didn't even get that out, and here, like out of the spot, I just see a Jello shot coming flying.
Oh, my God.
So I caught
Gross.
it. I caught it. And did it, thinking, I'll be cool. Here comes 10, I'm telling you, 5 or 6 more, all over the stage. I get done, I'm like, geez, they invited me back the next year. They were like, oh, that guy was great. Nobody laughed. I got shots thrown at me, and they were like, come on back.
Come on back.
I thought you were great.
That's awesome.
So they're 2 of probably the biggest hell gigs I ever had, but, oh, man.
It can't be hell when you're getting shots thrown in your mouth.
No, I did every one of them. I picked them all up and did them in the back.
So as
Can I hear one of your hell gigs? I love the hell gigs.
Oh, the hell gig stories. All right.
Is it all right? Am I turning the
No,
tables?
this is good. Yes, nobody's really asked me. So this was an interesting one, and there are too many to name because I've been on the road. I've been on the road for 20 years. So, but this one was kind of interesting. This was a local gig. I was headlining this gig up in Audubon, and I'm doing I'm at the show, and I hear everybody going up and doing all right, and everybody's having a good show. So I'm thinking, okay, it's a nice show. It was packed. It was like completely packed. And so it was this Chuckles Comedy Club.
Oh, the names.
Yeah. So it's a packed house. Everybody's doing well. I'm just kind of hanging out with this other comic. I'm hanging out with somebody who's like from the bar or something. We're just kind of hanging out, and finally the MC comes up and says, you got about like 5 minutes. I'm like, okay. So I go up there, and I'm everything's going great. I mean, it's a live, packed audience. Everybody's doing great. And so I go up. I'm doing great. First 10, 15 minutes, everything's working. I mean, there's nothing that's not working. So finally, I go into, I do a little crowd work. So I did all that stuff. It was all material stuff. And then I started, slowly getting into the audience. And there was one guy in the back, way in the back. And literally, so I just said, the guy, everybody sort of turned around and saw him. Because I said, look at this guy back here. And I said, boy, it's a little early because this was in like April. I says, boy, it's a little early for Christmas, isn't it, Santa? I said, do I have to be good the whole show? And the whole audience just went, oh. And I was like, Santa's a good guy, right? I mean, what's wrong with Santa? And then I said, was it better? I was like, all right, maybe we can get high off the show at Jerry Garcia or something, get high off the show and something. I'm trying different stuff. It's getting worse. Wow. So I'm kind of like, what? What? Am I missing something? Because the whole audience loved me, and all of a sudden, like on a dime, it turned. There's a guy in the front that kind of went like this. It was kind of like, I'm like, okay. So I'm like, why is this guy's way back here, this guy's here, and he's telling me to, I'm like, all right. So I jump out of it. It probably took me a good 5-10 minutes to get him back, and I got him back. And I obviously steered away from him and blah, blah, blah. So I go through the whole show. Finally, after like 15 minutes, it's really kicking in again. Everybody's loving me, the whole thing. So now it's on. And then the show ends. And I'm like, well, geez, man. I'm like, what the hell was that little thing in the middle? I'm like, ugh. So after the show, I said, thank you very much. And and I said, hey, I'll be hanging out here after the show. So I kind of just step off the stage a little bit, and then the audience starts to get up. And I kind of hang here, and I came back to near the stage where the guy was kind of this guy, and he comes over, and he's like, man, that was really funny stuff. God, you were great. I'm like, it's like, hey, thanks for kind of giving me a heads up there. I said, but I was just wondering, like, who is the, and then I looked a little closer at him and the rest of, like, this whole half of the audience. So it was like half of this side and half of this side, and I didn't really recognize that he had a jean jacket on.
Oh.
And then he turned around and he had an emblem on
boy.
the back of that jean jacket.
Oh, boy.
And
Was there any running with him?
what's that?
Did he come up to you or anything?
So so nobody said anything. So I was just starting to talk to him, and we started chit chatting and stuff, and so I was like, geez, man, like I was looking at him, so we started talking a little bit, and I said, do you know the guy back there? He said, oh yeah, he's kind of he's what we call like the old man or something. I was like, oh. And he's like, yeah, it's kind of not cool, he's kind of our guy and stuff like that. So we all really like him. He didn't say anything specific, but he was getting into the fact that I'm like,
Yeah,
okay,
you might have been in trouble. A little bit of trouble.
So I was like, okay, so I started talking a little bit, and so then the guy and all these guys, like all these young guys that have all got the jackets, and they all take him, and they all move around the other side of the room, like I'm over here with this guy, and they're all moving to the other side of the room and sort of walking out. And I said, well, if I might ask him, man, did I say something? He was like, well, it was a little insulting, but it's all good. And he's like, listen, man, it's all good. It's no big deal. And I said, well, should I apologize? Should I apologize to him? Is this really a bad thing? And he goes, well, he's like, yeah, if you want to go say hi to him, go say hi to him and stuff. So I walk out with him, and we walk out together, and we go into the bar. And he's like, yeah, come over. He's like, I'll introduce you to the guy, and you can just say something. He's like, I'm sure it'll be fine. So we as we're walking towards him, about 8 dudes stand up off the bar and rush me.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm walking towards the old guy, and he's standing here with 2 guys on either side of him, and I'm walking towards him with the other dude, and they come up, and the old guy makes contact with this guy, and they both kind of nod, and so he then just looks over at the 8 guys who then stop, and then they recede a little bit. So I'm kind of like, what is going on? I'm like, what is?
You'd rather have shots thrown at you.
Yes, I would rather have Jello shots. Because now I'm like, I'm really starting to sweat. I'm like, what the hell is this? So I go up to him and I said, listen, I just wanted to, I really like you. I apologize if I came. He's like, nah. He's like, listen, man, it was funny. He's like, I liked you. And meanwhile, he didn't move. Like his expression the whole show from day one, from minute 1 to minute 50 was like, he just stared at me, right? And when he's like, oh, you're a funny kid. You're a good kid. He put his hand on me and stuff. And I put my arm, I put my hand. I was like, and he shook the hand. He's like, you're all good. He's like, no, I really thought you're funny. He's like, you're a good guy. You're a good guy. I appreciate you coming over saying something. You can, he's like, I appreciate you stopping by. And then, so as I recede back, the guy's like, oh, you're all good. And I said, I hope I just kind of leaned back. I said, I hope I didn't offend. He's like, nah, see these young kids, they just want to take care of the old man. It's, like, it's all good and stuff like that. So as I kind of rolled back, and he and I were talking a little bit, and he got me a beer and stuff. And then he goes, he's like, so I got a quick beer. And then I said, well, I think I'm going to take off. He's like, let me walk you out. I was like,
now you're his buddy. Yeah.
So as it turns out, as I was walking out, I kind of just sort of, I said, oh, let me get something. I turned back, and as I started to walk forward, I saw on the back of his thing, pagans.
Yeah.
The only group.
I kind of read ahead there.
You read it? So the pagans, just so you know, for all that out there in podcast land, they're the only motorcycle group ever to kick the Hells Angels out of a major city. And they kicked out Hells Angels. So pagans ran Philadelphia for the longest time, and still kind of do, but they kicked out the Hells Angels. They had a big war, and they won. That's how it shows you how badass the pagans are. So the pagans walked out. So I'm like, oh my God, and he's one of the pagans. So as we're walking out, he just goes, okay, you're good. And there was 3 guys in the parking lot right here, and he nodded and they drifted to the left. And I was able to go to my car and go, I don't know what would have happened.
Yeah.
But he was like, it's all good. And like, I mean,
We might not be having this podcast.
we may have had a nice memorial podcast for me. But I couldn't believe it. I mean, I had no idea, and I certainly didn't mean insulting, and I called him Santa, but apparently anything with, I guess it's they called him the old member, the old guy, or whatever it is, and he's considered like the father or something. He's like the father or something. So it's like it has to be, it's a position of a lot of respect.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, man, disrespect. And he was all fine. He was like, you're good, everything's good. He's like, I appreciate the apology. He's like, to me, he's like, as soon as he put his hand on me, everybody was cool. But even then, as I'm walking out, I'm like, what, the guy, but I don't think they knew I was cool or whatever it was, but. Yeah. So I would say that was beyond hell.
Yes.
That was pagan hell.
My gigs were nothing, man.
They seemed like a good guy. I mean, the guy who was there was a really nice guy to me. The father figure guy was really nice, and the two other guys on either side, I mean, they seemed to be okay, but it was just like I guess he was telling me that the younger guys really protect him. I guess it's their job.
Yeah,
and you say anything.
Yeah, they're helping him.
So yeah, I took about like 5 years off my life. So you say you feel like an 85-year-old, so I maybe was like 40 years off my life. So I probably am in the 85 range.
I'll take Jello shots any day of the week.
Dude, I would love to bomb at University
and
of
Notre Dame hating.
Yeah, please. I almost lost my life, but they were good guys. I mean, I guess I don't know. I guess it was just a matter of finding the right avenue. But that was a beyond hell gig. That was
comedy.
That was a sweat to your life that flashes before your eyes gig. So so there you go. But thank you for asking, man.
No problem.
Yeah, I got a lot more, so we'll have time for some of those. So now. Another segment we do here on the podcast is as we jiggle the mic.
Yeah.
Woohoo! How are you? I can jiggle your mic too if you like. Anyway,
no thanks. After.
We talk about side gigs or side jobs, hell jobs. So along the lines of hell gigs, now it's a little bit about hell jobs. So give me an idea, like through this great career that you've had. You've had movies, you've had TV, you've got burlesque, you've got stand-up comedy, you've done all this entertainment work, improv stuff. What are some of your side hustles that you've kind of kept the money rolling in?
A lot of people don't realize that when you get into comedy, it's not steady at all.
Oh no!
Especially like I'm still struggling. I'm still not. We all
are.
Well, everyone is. So
that's right.
It's been a struggle. It's been rough. But I started when I got out of school. I've always loved kids, so I started working with kids for like 10 years.
Okay.
And after school programs, and then for 6 years I worked with an autistic child who I loved, who I still keep in touch with him and his mom. That was a very rewarding
that's great.
Job for 6 years, all while doing comedy on the side and everything like that. And then I did everything from I did a lot of mascot work too. I'm also a mascot.
So mascots for who? You got to give that up.
Well, yeah, there was the Philadelphia Spinners. You ever hear of them?
The little thing you put in your hand and they got ADD?
It was a frisbee team.
Oh, get out. Okay.
And I was their mascot. It was I don't know what it was. It was an alien thing. I don't know.
You were in an alien.
It was like a phone thing, like the Fanatic of the antennas, and it was weird. Did that for a couple years, and then Coco Keys Water Park. Did that for a summer. I was Coco, who was a bird with.
So it was Coco's Water Park, and you were Coco. You were the main dude.
I was the main guy. I got paid like I was the help, but I was the main guy. It was a parrot with a scuba gear on. So
did you get paid in funnel cakes?
I wish. And then I was at Adventure Aquarium for 4 years.
At Camden.
I did their mascots, and I also worked the touch tanks. You touch like this, the 2-finger touch.
Ooh.
The sharks, the stingrays.
You turn on people. Turn on some people.
Yeah, exactly.
Two-finger touch.
2-finger touch. So I did that, and then I worked at Neiman Marcus department store. I was a doorman, customer service for 6 years, and then COVID hit. You ever hear of COVID?
No, I never heard of it.
It's a crazy thing that
Passed
happened
me by.
in 2020. But it hit, and then, so all the best, they were all, I loved, like I said, working in schools with the autistic child was the best. He was the man. And then Neiman Marcus was cool because it was flexible.
Is that the one at King of Prussia?
Yeah.
Okay.
Great people, great store. Go there and buy stuff. If you can afford
it. People, shout out to Neiman Marcus.
Shout out to Neiman Marcus.
Hoping to get that 25% discount back.
I'm hoping to get that back. I couldn't afford anything with it.
I was going to say, even with that, you're still paying $2,000.
Anything with it. But it was a great place, though.
Yeah.
So, but they were very flexible. So they let me do the Biloxi gig, and I kept my job there, and I was able to do that and that. So it was pretty. Yeah. It was a very flexible gig, but yeah, it was. That was all like in the span of when I got out of college through, God, 2020.
But you were like the high end guy though. You were like, if you were working as the door guy, you were.
I was the welcomer.
Yeah,
welcomer. I called. I didn't call myself a doorman. I called myself the manager of door adjarment. I wanted to let people. I wanted to spice it up for girls but then I went to customer service, and a lot of big name people came in.
Yeah, so there you go. So in these, cool even though it's a little bit of a side gig, side hustle, whatever you want to call it, hell job. Give me some of your top 5 celebs or top 10 celebs that you
met there.
Yeah,
I don't know if there's top 5, but there's the nicer ones. I'll give you the nice ones.
There you go.
Ryan Howard.
Okay.
Ryan Howard, Philadelphia Phillies, was extremely nice.
Okay.
Who's the guy from the Flyers? That narrows it down.
Paul Giroux.
No.
New or old?
African American fella.
Oh, Wayne Simmons.
Wayne Simmons. Great guy. One of the nicest guys that came in.
Love Wayne.
The box. This is like charades now. The boxer from Philly.
Oh.
No. Older guy.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Bernard Hopkins?
Yes. Came up to every one of us, shook our hands, looked us in the eye, said, "How you doing? Thank you."
Wow.
Really, really, really nice guy. Patty LaBelle.
I love your boxing, by the way.
That was my boxing.
That was sort of like...
I was not in a lot of fights, ever.
I would hope not, because you're like, he takes a punch in your face, and you're like, here you go. Punch in the face, here you go.
It's like Rock'em Sock'em Robot. Patty LaBelle. Sweetheart.
She's actually nice, really.
Oh, what a sweetheart.
I've heard some tough stories about her, but okay.
There's a fan there that went crazy for her. Crazy.
Oh boy, jeez.
And she was so sweet to her and nice to all of us, and very, very nice person. Yeah, love Patty. So I guess they're the top guys, people I met that were really nice. Fletcher Cox, another great guy.
Really?
Really nice.
I've heard he's a bit of a tough character too, but
yeah, he was when I say guy. Nice, he said hi. You know
what I mean? I've given you the finger sometimes. You'd probably be like, Corey's an all right guy. He's an all right. So I would probably get downgraded a little bit. Wow. You got to sell out at least one person. You got to get somebody who is really jerky. So you got to give me at least one.
Oh man, I hate doing that.
Come on, you got to give me one. They're never going to see you again. They don't know you.
Let me think now. Let me think.
I mean, you're not really selling out because they were really a jerk or a biatch.
You know who I thought wasn't too nice, and people in Philly will probably not like this, but Joel Embiid.
Get out.
Yeah, it kind of wasn't nice to me when I came in.
No kidding.
When he came in the store. Maybe he didn't see me. He was huge. And I was like, "How you doing?"
He looked right over.
Welcome.
All I saw was a hat, like kind of 12 feet below him.
Looked down, whatever. So he might not have saw me. I don't know. But yeah, he was
not nice.
He didn't seem too personable.
Any Hollywood people that you saw, like really different, any non-Philadelphians?
I'm trying to. Oh, you know who? There was a big party there one time, and the performers there, they rented the store out. The performers were Lil Kim.
Okay.
Did I say that right?
Lil Kim, yeah. Oh,
Lil Kim was adorable. There. Man, who else came in? Who's Slick Rick, I think, was there. I didn't see Slick Rick, though. And I didn't really get it. I didn't, rub elbows with them. They were there at the party.
Just know they were at the party and they were kind of there with them. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Interesting.
Really. I'm trying to think of, they used to have, if people were in town. Glimpse, I didn't see him. He was there very early in the morning. Alan Iverson was there very early in the morning to get something, and he was in and out. So I didn't really get to talk to him or
see him or anything. Okay. Gotcha. Well, we all know his background.
Yeah, he seemed nice, though. He was talking to people.
Okay.
Yeah. He seemed
nice.
He's
buying stuff, so I guess he's,
Yeah.
I'm surprised he was in a good mood, but even spending money. Well, good for him.
But all in all, everyone was good. Even Embiid. I don't know. He probably didn't see me. I don't know.
So talk to me about all this stuff. We talk about our youth a little bit. But get into the fact that you met this guy in your youth, this guy who kind of put you on Kids in America, but then through him, you kind of met Adam Sandler, and then you did his movie recently. So talk about that a little bit.
Well, I got cut out of the movie.
Did you get at the end on the cutting floor? But you did the movie, right?
I was in it. I was an extra. Like I said, extra. I hated extra work because extra work was like the National Treasure was the first one I did, and the extra coordinator comes out and goes, "Thank you guys for coming. We need you guys to really make this work. If not for the extras, we would never have a movie." Having said that, don't talk to the director. Don't look at anybody. Don't walk by them. Don't touch their hand. Don't nothing. You couldn't even look their way. Don't cough in their direction. So it was kind of like, wow. Okay.
Can I stare at them? No.
Exactly. So it was kind of weird. So I was like, I don't really feel like doing. But then I was like, you know what? it's Adam Sandler, and I do like that. And I met him.
Yep.
I hung with him on the set of Little Nicky. Remember that movie?
Oh, yeah.
It's an Oscar winner. And I hung out with him
All
on
of
that
his
set.
movies are.
I know, I love it. And I hung out with, but they're all the ones I love, you know. And I hung out with him on the set of that. So I'm like, oh, maybe I can talk to him, and maybe I can, you know. But there was no talking to him. It was just so. I mean, he was very nice. He went around all the extras. It was in the time too where we still had to wear masks. So we were all wearing masks.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. That's
And
right.
he did walk by me, and I lost the courage to even say anything to him. I felt bad, but I did talk to his one assistant who's from Philadelphia.
Okay.
The guy by the name of John Lochran, who is the cross-eyed guy in The Waterboy.
Oh, yeah.
So he went to Archbishop Ryan.
Oh, get out.
And he's a
Okay.
Philadelphia guy.
That's, I think, where Jimmy Schubert went.
I think so. I think so, yeah. And Lochran was the nicest guy. I did get to talk to him, and he did remember meeting me, and we talked about, you know, my buddy, mutual friend, and I was in a scene in the film. It's in the very beginning of the film where they turned the Palestra into Germany, which was really cool because it's about a scout. You saw the movie.
They put a tank in there?
Yeah, they turned it into
They turned it into Germany.
Germany national
beer halls?
The Germany national. I should have said basketball. Germany thing.
There you go. Okay.
They turned it into like that. The Germany
Barbed wire.
Yeah, exactly. The Germany court. So it was really awesome. I couldn't believe there was a Palestra. It was so amazing. And I'm sitting there, and there's a scene where he's talking to a scout and says something to the scout, and the scout goes like this, and the scout comes up and sits directly next to me and looks at me, and my whole acting scene was...
That was it.
That was it. So I just did it for you. It's on deleted scenes.
That was... I felt like I was at the Palestra.
And Germany
I
Palestra.
felt like I was a German scout right there. I felt like
So I'm so excited when it comes out, and it's literally they cut that entire. They only have him sitting next to Sandler, and then they cut it. It was all real quick cuts.
Oh, wow.
So I did not make it into Hustle, but I was there for 2 days, and it was.
Now, did they still give you that?
Cool to work with. It's just cool to not work. I didn't work with him, but it's cool to see him, and he was always one of my favorite guys. So still is.
I heard he's just absolutely one of the nicest guys. I talked to this on a previous podcast at how he is just literally amongst everybody. He seems like one of the most benevolent guys. He really takes care of his people. Very generous, very kind, and he's just a very humble guy. And he's actually one of the guys that I never really, was a big fan of his stand-up or anything like that. But he's just one of the guys I would love to meet, just to he would be a good guy to have a beer with and talk about his career. Like, he just would be a nice guy to talk to.
So when I met him in Little Nicky, I was with my buddy Andrew Schaefer. Like I said, this guy has done so much for me. He just really liked me. He saw something in me, and we did like a vignette for something that he was doing, and I played one of his. I think it was like something colonial. He was doing something about Philadelphia.
Okay.
And I played one of his colonial interns. We were tour guides in Center City. And he absolutely loved it, and we just became friends, and he's just the funniest guy I've ever met. He's hilarious, Andy Schaefer. But we were in L.A., and he goes, we're going to go. He set it up, and he said, we're going to go see Sandler. And I was like, what? And he said, we're going to see Sandler on the set of Little Nicky. I didn't know what to expect, so I'm like, oh, wow. So we go, and we're literally... 2 hours later, I'm in his trailer with him, and he's smoking a cigar with my buddy. I brought another buddy with me from college, and he's smoking a cigar with him. And I like cigars, but I know how to light them. So he's like, "You want a cigar?" I'm like, "No, I'm good." But I didn't want to be like an idiot. Like, how do you light them? So I said no.
That's your earlobe. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah. All right. Well, how about you light it, and I'll just smoke it.
But he sat in there with us for an hour, talking comedy and just being cool, being Adam Sandler. And when we left the trailer, he goes, "Come with me," and he showed us around the set. And I was like, "Can I get anything?" Or
Wow, amazing. It
was real surreal, and that's just the kind of guy he is. That's why he's one guy I'd love to work for, just because he's just so cool and down to earth. And I like his humor. I always like the stuff that just gets you away from the real life craziness.
Oh yeah, and he's actually combined a lot of golf and sports.
Yes,
so
he
Hustle.
Well, he plays basketball all the time. That's his sport.
Yeah, Happy Gilmore. So you talk about a guy who's kind of melded it too. So
yes,
I think he'd be great. But talk about too that you. Speaking of, we have another segment usually called This Week in Comedy History, and there was a. Thanks for helping out there. My producer sucks, by the way. So we get in that in a minute. But I just saw a Cheers episode. It was actually around a February date, so we could even talk about that a little bit. But talk to you about your experience with George Wendt, because you made a couple of things.
George
with him, right?
Wendt, yes.
So you made an indie movie down the shore, I believe, with him, right?
Indie movie was around here.
It was around here. It was in Philly.
We did do it. The guy who got me to meet him was Andrew Schaefer, same guy. He's been in my life the whole time. And he did Kids in America. So George, he played a football coach in Kids in America.
Right.
And I couldn't believe that I was around George Wendt, because I love Cheers, I love Norm, and my whole life is revolved around Norm. No, I'm in a bar every day.
Yeah,
no,
right.
So
I get drunk and I hate my wife. I don't have a wife, but I hate her anyway. If I had a wife, I'd probably hate her.
But no, he knew it. I was following him around like a puppy dog. I'm like, oh, this is George Wendt, and he kind of knew it. They even did a behind the scenes interview with him.
Did you pick up his poop?
So they did a behind the scenes interview with him, and they're like, "Who are you excited to work for in this movie?" He's like, "Chris from Roxborough."
Get out.
And they all start laughing. He's like, just because he's so excited to see me. So from there, I just really, he's just such a great guy. Like he's not on all the time, but he's just the nicest guy. I've never seen him turn anybody down for a picture. And he's just really a humble, nice guy.
Yep.
And from there, he did the play 12 Angry Men. He toured with that play.
Get out.
And he came to Philly in 20.
Remember what juror number he was? So that is important to me.
He was the foreman.
He was the foreman.
He played
guy.
the foreman.
Oh wow.
And it was 2007, and I was like, "Won't it be cool to go see him and get him out?" But I didn't have his contact info, so I just emailed his agent, and I was like, "Hey, I worked with George and Kids of America." And next thing on the phone rings, and it's him.
Get out.
And he's like, "Chris, yeah, man, I'd love to go out." So I brought like 13 people down to see him. Then we picked him up in the stage door, and we took him up to Keenan's in Roxborough, which is no longer there, and he hung out with us till about 1:30 in the morning. We had a great time. Met my family, all my friends came.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
And he likes, like me, he likes his beer, so we get along great. So then I had him. I went and met him in New York. I took improv class in New York, and I remember I went and he brilliantly played the mom in Hairspray on Broadway.
Oh wow! I didn't know he was such a theater actor.
He is. He does a lot of theater. So I went. He was unbelievable in it too. He was absolutely hilarious. See George in a dress and everything. It's great, but it's funny. But then after
I can actually see that little moo.
we met at a bar down in Manhattan and hung out. And then when he came, there was a movie I did called "Stealing a Survivor" with Jervis from Survivor.
Yeah.
Great guy, another great guy. And I was reading for the part, and when I read the dad part, George popped in my head. I don't know. I was like, I think George Wendt could play this. And they were like, think we'll do it? And I said, well, ask him. So I shot him a text, and he said, send the script to my agent. And they set it up, came up with a price, and he came to town for 2 days.
And did it.
3 days and did it.
Get out.
And
that was all because of you.
as luck would have it, we were at a bar again that night in the Al House in Plymouth Meeting. We had a great time.
Oh, the famous Plymouth Meeting.
Plymouth Meeting keeps coming back. Or I think that's in Lafayette Hill. I don't know. The Al House. It's great.
Yeah.
The old Al House. Yeah. So we were out there, and he hung out all night, and it was so funny because to see kids come up to him, like there was like families in there because it was a restaurant bar.
Yeah.
And like these little kids are coming to him, Mr. Wendt, can we get a picture? And I'm like, how do they know you? He goes, Netflix. And I'm like, oh yeah. And Cheers is a whole new,
it's a whole new generation
audience,
now.
and now it's on, I think,
Amazing.
Peacock, something like that. But yeah, at the time it was on Netflix. But yeah, but just the nicest human being you'd ever want to meet. And talk about want to sit down and have a beer with. He's
the guy.
He's the guy.
Like I recently just saw him. I saw a movie called The Climb, which was a pretty funny movie, and he was in that movie. It was about 2013, 2014-ish.
Okay.
It's sort of an indie movie-ish, but he was in it. And it's about these two guys who kind of go off the rails with their friendship. But
I'll have to look that up. I don't think I've ever
you
seen
have to
that,
see
The
that
Climb.
film. I think you actually really enjoy it because it's about two buddies who are really good friends, but the one just keeps sabotaging his other friend. Like
comedy?
There's like, it would actually be like us. There's like a really nice guy and a dick. And it would be like a perfect, we should make a movie like that because they was exactly
The Climb
what
2.
our relationship would have been.
The
right?
Climb 2. We'll get George in.
Guy-
Gotta call George up.
He could play he played the dad of the nice guy.
That's so
Because he was a
funny. I
nice
gotta
guy.
check that out. I'm gonna watch that
and
tonight.
yeah, and it's amazing because he definitely looked. I was looking at him like, boy, he's really aged, and
we all
he
do.
was a very laid back kind of dad. I mean, he was a very nice dad, but laid back. But it was tough to get Norm out of your head and then dive into that. And eventually, you did accept him. But it was amazing to see somebody who gets so pigeonholed which he did. I mean, you saw that he didn't do much after Cheers because he got so pigeonholed. I mean, a lot of the guys that happened to in Hollywood.
Yeah.
But it's amazing that he's kept that kind of,
in a role, and it's like, I saw, God rest him, but I saw Screech from Saved by the Bell, remember? So, God rest him. But he talked about that. He's like, I can't, like, change my bone, how I look and how I, like, he's always Screech. He was like, I couldn't get another part. But it's tough when you're, you know. And I remember I asked George that. I was like, does this bother you? But Norm, he's like, no, that's what I got. You know, that was my
and some people would kill to have that kind of 10-year
Yeah, I know,
run.
I would.
I mean, you know, he certainly made it. I mean, I'm sure he's
I want to get pigeonholed. I can't. I'm trying to get something.
Do you ever talk about if he's like how he's doing money-wise and stuff? Is that like Cheers?
No,
really
but what's crazy is a lot of people don't realize he works all the time. Like, you might not see... Like,
a lot of theater work, apparently. Yeah,
does a lot of theater.
Okay,
he pops up in commercials, TV, movies, a lot of stuff. I mean, George, he kept going, man. He worked. You know, as a matter of fact, when he came to do Stealing Survivor, he had just got done doing a play in Boston.
Okay,
so he was in Boston for about a month, and then he came and did our thing.
No kidding.
And then flew home. Yeah. So, yeah, he works all the time. A lot of those actors, like, you know, you can find work because you know, they know who you are now, and it's, you know, we'll get George to do this, and he's even done regional theater.
No kidding.
Which is even good. You get a nice payday. You go to the regional theater, do shows. And
he lives in L.A. still?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he's in L.A.
You know, I was reading about up in Cheers, and it's amazing that he's a big beer guy. Yeah, and he did say he was, but he said
There's a book.
He said it was
Great book.
awful doing being the beer guy because they did have the real taps, but it was warm beer,
near beer, yeah.
and it was near beer. It was like O'Doul's or something.
Little salt in the
So it was warm, crappy beer. So if you ever notice, he takes a little. There's only one time I think he drank like a full beer just as like a thing, and I think they gave him a real like a cold one. But everything else, it was warm, nasty beer. So you'd see him always taking little sips.
All day. Yeah.
And so he was like, it was terrible. He's like, you had to fake like you really liked it, and that was a terrible part that you would have to be like, yeah, I'm a big beer guy. Meanwhile, he's like, in his mind, he was like, oh, it was terrible.
This is horrible. Yeah, it's acting. That's acting. He did a good job.
I'd be like, dude, this is freaking awful. Give me a new beer, man. I'd be like, I would ruin the entire scene.
Exactly.
Well, that's great.
George is one of the greatest people ever, man. He's just a great, great guy, man. Really, really good.
Nice. Jump into sports a little bit. So talk a little bit about the history with your dad and his relation to the sports world, as it were.
Yeah, so it's so funny to see now. My dad's is 80; he'll be 81, and
for the record, it's Speedy Morris' dad. He's a basketball coach for
it was
his whole life. I mean, pretty much.
Started
right?
Roman Catholic and St. John's, really grade school, and then Roman Catholic, and then went on to Penn Charter, and then LaSalle. He's still, I think, the only coach, one or two coaches to go from women's to men's at the same school.
Wow!
So he spent 2 years coaching the women, and then went to the men's. And then after that, went to St. Joe's Prep and spent the last 19 years there as a successful coach. It's so crazy because I wasn't like, I don't know if you could tell, I wasn't an athlete, Corey. I don't know if
you
that
look like
comes
you're in
off.
great shape.
Yeah.
You look like you make it up the stairs, which is all that matters these days.
That's all that matters. So I wasn't, I always was into like, I was having my own shows in my room. My brothers were like playing basketball. I'm like, I got a talk show I'm doing by myself. So
you'd be the guy criticizing your brothers who are there playing ball.
Exactly.
Because I went to school with your brother Brian.
Carroll.
Yeah, Carroll High School.
That's where I went. We both went. We're both alums.
Yeah, you were below me though, wasn't? I mean,
98.
not that you were below me, but
98. I am.
You were way past my time.
1998. Yeah. And Brian. Yeah, Brian.
Brian was around my time. Yeah. So and Brian was a great guy, and he was. He was like coaching with the women's team or something.
He coached. Yeah, he did a lot of coaching for the girls. Where did he coach? Chestnut Hill College. He coached Springside. He did a lot. He works for Department of Rec now up in Ben Salem. He's doing really, really well. So got a beautiful daughter, and so yeah, he's doing great.
But yeah, but your dad has just had this legacy. He's got his name on a parquet, right?
He's got the name on the Romans court and on the Preps court.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's winningest coach in LaSalle's history, winningest coach in the Preps history. He's really had. It's pretty amazing, and it's so funny. Back in the '80s, when LaSalle just honored the 1990 30-2 team. I was telling you, Lionel Simmons, the great Lionel Simmons, and Doug Overton, Randy Woods, and I was the water boy, and but he,
you didn't get paid like a water boy, like Adam Center water boy, right? Yeah.
But he, when he was in it, I guess I didn't understand. I was a kid, so I didn't really get how big it was. Like he was on ESPN, he was
Oh,
on
yeah.
talk shows, and now you look back and you're like, man, this was. And we were afforded so many great opportunities to travel with the team and just be there for some iconic moments. Like Lionel Simmons, I think he's the highest lead college scorer. He scored 3,000 points. There's a girl.
deal.
There's a girl from Villanova. I think is chasing that. It was amazing right now.
Okay.
Yeah, she had 50 points this year in a game. She's like, I can't remember her name, unfortunately. Sorry, girl from Villanova.
Shout out to the girl we can't remember.
I'm thinking Maddie something. But anyway, unbelievable player, and the whole team's unbelievable. But yeah, so Lionel scored his 3,000th. I was there on the bench, balloons coming down, streamers going around, everyone's celebrating. I'm picking up streamers. The water boy was the bitch. And
You're a very, very important person. Those streamers don't get picked up. People would be slipping all over the place.
Can't play.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, it's just, to be there for all those moments and then see him do what he loved for his whole life. It's been, and to meet some of the people that I got to meet. I never would have thought I met some of these guys, that he knew, and from Charles Barkley to legendary Pete Carell from Princeton, who passed away, to John Chaney, to sitting with these people, Fran Dunphy, Phil Martelli, all these guys that I grew up around.
Yeah, so here's the
amazing.
most important question. So your dad has this sort of iconic, very, very famous nature here in the world of Philadelphia sports. Did you ever leverage that to get some rear end from the ladies? The fact that you had to pause and think about this.
Well, I was trying to make something up and say yes, but no. No, they were like, oh, really? The coach? Okay. Do you know any of the players?
I knew you.
That's exactly what it was. Do you know Lionel? Yeah, I know them. Can you get me his number? It's like I was doing the burlesque show. Like I was doing a burlesque show, and this girl, she's drunk outside the bar, and we had jugglers on the show. These two young guys were great. And I come out of the bar. She's like, you were really good. I'm like, wow, thank you very much. You liked the show? I really did. Can you get me the jugglers' phone numbers? No, I'm going to go upstairs and learn how to juggle, and I'll be back in about a half hour. I'll talk to you then.
That was always the comedian joke. They would always go, you go after a show, and like you'd be in Cleveland or something, and come up to Jason, like these two hot girls would be like, man, you were really funny. We really enjoyed the show. Oh, it's great. Do you know where there's like a band around here so I can go blow the drummer? And you're like, okay, all right, well, that's
exactly.
Great. It's never like, it's not about me, right? No, it's about you. It's about anybody else but you. It's just, I'll even take the backup drummer, or I'll even take the roadie. I don't care, but we're not nailing you. Okay, that's great. But that's great. I mean, it's amazing that you've kind of carved out your own great carear. Living the show, because a lot of times it's tough to live in that kind of shadow.
Yeah. Well, and through him, I was able to get, like, I would have never met my buddy Andrew Schaefer if it wasn't for him, and really started comedy. He really helped me get that start because of his name, being a legendary coach, and him, like when he would even be on the road. They would have banquets of these tournaments, and they'd make him the last speaker because he'd just do all these jokes and have the place in hysterics. And so he understood it and knew it, and he's the one that wound up. So it really helped out with his name getting me in foot in the door.
That's good. That's really awesome. All right, so let's get to that all-important segment now of the This Week in Comedy. Shout it out, Jim, our producer. What do you got for us for This Week in Comedy? Well, just yell it out. Just what do you got?
Can you see the screen or no?
I cannot see the screen because I'm blind as hell.
Okay. Hold on. This is where we'll take a break.
Take a break. All right.
Give me a second. I'll put in a word for you. Make it beat.
What are we doing here this week?
This Week in Comedy.
I would have set myself up with a microphone.
You can do that. I don't care. You can feed it to me.
No, I'll just put it on here and make it larger.
Make it huge. That's what she said.
Nice.
You put it out there and make it huge? I'll do my best, sweetheart. What's that?
Me neither. Pal.
Yeah.
She said, this is
I said, this is about, oh, that's perfect. If you can get it, a little bigger, that's perfect.
As you're telling the story, I'll set up the second one.
Oh, I like this.
Okay,
I like
perfect.
this.
Okay, perfect. All right, come to that all-important time here on the podcast for This Week in Comedy. And our first thing, This Week in Comedy, comedian actor Bill Engvall was born So he was born back in 1957 during this week. I can't say that I was ever a big blue collar comedy tour guy. I did like Bill. I thought he had some funny stuff. I was probably say I was more of a Ron White guy, but I thought Bill was very smart in his comedy, and he certainly had a fantastic career. So it was great to see him out there.
Really good delivery, right? He had
very nice delivery.
Very fast, and yeah, I like Bill a lot.
Yeah, that very southern, like little southern twang to him, but yeah, it was very good. I did like
yeah.
that. This week in comedy, this is the comedy sketch show, the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour, premiered on CBS back in 1965. Wow.
Yeah,
That's a long time ago. And I wasn't a Smothers Brothers guy either, but it's a testament to them, the endurance that they had. I mean, they were around forever, and they were the comedy team.
Yes, they were
at that time.
Yeah, they were.
They commanded a lot of stuff. This week, 1975, Saturday Night Live premiered with comedian George Carlin as the host. That's amazing. And I actually just saw the. Have you seen the biopic on Showtime of John Belushi? And if you haven't, you got to see it.
When did it come out?
It's incredible. It came out actually probably 6 months to almost a year ago.
I got to watch it.
So you'll have to see that. It's absolutely incredible.
Who plays him?
Oh, so it's just a bio. It's a bio. It's just a bio.
Oh, the bio I've seen. Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen that. Yes, that is amazing.
It
I thought
is.
you meant there was a.
Oh yeah. No, it wasn't a drama. It was actually.
But who was your favorite SNL guy? Or both?
I'd probably say, guy-wise, because he was just incredible, was Phil Hartman.
Oh my God!
I just think
yeah.
he played everything great, and he was just
he could do
and
it
his
all.
long stretch of time that he was there was absolutely fantastic.
He could do it all.
And the other gal that I really liked was Jan Hooks. I really
doesn't
thought
get enough
that
credit. Jan
she had a
Hooks is
very
brilliant.
good comedic way about her that I think a lot of people missed.
Yes.
And I think she worked well with Phil, so I think that period was kind of my period. So I know there's been good, like Tina Fey, of course, local gal. I mean, they were great, but I think I'd have to go with my era, and I just think the two people from my era would be Phil Hartman and Jan Hooks.
Everybody had. I always say SNL was the whatever you came up watching, whatever cast, that's your favorite. Cast.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean?
And who were you two?
Well, I would love more than two. I love the whole Farley, Sandler, Spade. Chris Farley was one of my all-time favorite guys.
Of course.
Sandler, Spade, Norm Macdonald, that whole crew, Mike Myers, Dana Carvey, are just. And Phil was a part of that too. Phil was there for a little bit with them, and Kevin Nealon. I love that whole crew. I mean, they were just.
Norm was definitely my favorite SNL update guy.
What an unbelievable.
I mean, actually, and believe it or not, crazy enough, I did actually like Dennis.
Dennis Miller.
Miller.
I'm not a smart man, so he was a little bit over my head. Some of the stuff he was saying.
I gotta admit, I did like. He was like a strong too.
he's very good.
I always liked him, and because
hilarious.
he was so subtle, and he was a little smug, but I liked it. He was kind of had that David Letterman smugness, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, but I like the original guys too. I love Chevy and John Belushi and Aykroyd, and then even the Catan, Will Ferrell. You know, Will Ferrell's brilliant.
Yeah, Will Ferrell he had a great run.
Those guys were great, man. And Molly Shannon, who I just worked with.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Just worked with Molly. I love her.
Shout out to local gal Molly.
Oh, she's
there you
awesome.
Go. All right, back in we're going back to 1934. Comedian and actor Ural Nurkin was born in Russia. So I don't even know who that is.
I got nothing on that one.
I got nothing on Yuri, but
Yuri was great.
But it's always good. It's always good to have the the different things in comedy because we got to have it out there. This goes back to 1947. Comedian actor Rob Reiner was born in the Bronx. Meathead was born in 1947 this week. So great to have Rob out there. He certainly did a lot of stuff, and amazing he went from doing a lot of comedy stuff to making some very serious films.
Yes, he did.
And a lot of great stuff.
Yeah.
1956, comedian actor Steve Harris was born in Chicago, Illinois. Steve Harris, been around for a long time. Don't really know him that well, but
I don't either. But I'm sure he was
he's
great.
from Chicago. And last but not least, back in 1987, the movie Lethal Weapon, starring comedians Danny Glover. I don't know if he's a comedian, Danny Glover, but Joe Pesci. But I think you're just trying to put that out there. I think Jim's messing with us now. Was released in theaters, and even though it wasn't necessarily a comedy film, there were some nice comedic moments.
Pesci's funny,
and I thought it was so great. But it has to be Lethal Weapon 2 or 3 because Lethal Weapon did not star Joe Pesci.
No.
So first Lethal Weapon was not with Joe Pesci, but
that's why I was confused. Who was the other guy? It was Danny Glover and who? Wasn't
and Mel Gibson.
Mel Gibson.
And then so I think it was Mel Gibson. So if Lethal Weapon was the original in '87, that was just Danny Glover and and Mel Gibson. But
right. We still
even
love
though
Joe Pesci.
There was a couple of comedic quips in there, and Mel certainly was a little kooky in that one. So I'll give it to you as for This Week in Comedy History. But there you go, folks. That was your comedic history update, and so it was a bit of a stretch on some of those, but we'll take it. That's what we got to do here. We got to drag it out a little bit. Last but not least, here on the podcast segment, we're going to wrap it up. So we're grateful to have Chris Morris here. He was, well, again, I'm going to just call you entertainment extraordinaire because you have everything. But give us anything that's upcoming, your thoughts on the future of comedy, things of that nature, to wrap this all up in a nice little nutshell.
Well, I just hope. I've been auditioning a lot for different films and shows, and I know I have a show coming up April 1st at the Steam Fitters Union up in Northeast Philly, beautiful Northeast Philly.
That's all you?
Vince Valentine.
You, Vince, and
the great Sudsy.
Okay.
Suds will be on that.
Who put that on again?
So I don't think that might be a Vinny show.
A Vinny show?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a good one.
And you are featuring on this one?
I think I am.
Okay.
I just do whatever they tell me. I just show up. Whatever you need, I'll do.
I'll
clean up. I'll clean the stage.
I need a strong two and get off the stage. I can do that for you. Exactly. Hello, I am. Okay, thanks very much. Have a good night.
And then I'm waiting. I'm waiting to hear. I'm hoping to be back at the Brigada. I don't know what's going on, but hopefully we'll be back there.
Fingers crossed. Okay.
Fingers crossed on that. So if I am, you can check me out. I'm on Facebook. Christopher Morris is my Facebook name. Look me up. I'm friends with Corey, so we're mutual friends.
I don't know if you want to be bragging about that anytime soon, but that's great. Well, good luck. Continue best on that show at April 1st. Podcast, you can catch us here every week. So we're happy for Chris. Chris,
thank you, my friend. It was a blast. Thanks, everybody.
We'll be having you back. So happy to everybody for checking in. Again, it's About Time Podcast. Please check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. We'll see you soon.
Comedy Train.